a third of our lives there. And that's what we're leaning into, that too, creating solutions for women so that they don't have to suffer. But also, for younger women as well. And so we're really leaning into innovation and growing internationally, is because we're in pretty much every major retailer in the US and in Canada. So, we get inquiries all the time. We ship international constantly. So my goal, is to expand the brand to as many countries as possible.
Yeah, and if you already get... Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I am your host, Angela Duncan, speaker, best-selling author, serial entrepreneur. We talk all things money and business. Today's episode is sponsored by freemoneytipsbook.com. Head over to that website. It's a free ebook just for you, 7 steps to get you started on your financial journey. On today's episode, I am interviewing Deannah Seymour, and we're talking about a more holistic approach to feminine health. Hello, Deannah. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. How are you?
Hi, Angela. I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thanks for being a guest today. I would love for you to just start off and talk a little bit about your journey and how you got to the business you are running today.
Sure. Yeah, I like to say that I'm an accidental entrepreneur because that's really exactly what it is. I was in the pharmaceutical industry for 20 years and had every intention of retiring from that career because I loved it. I was a single mom, so it offered all the security that I thought I needed. And, the company car, the 401k, the pension, the great health benefits. And during that time, I had been on a lot of antibiotics for sinus infections. And as a woman, we know when we're on antibiotics, it completely disrupts our flora. And as a result of that, I was looking for holistic alternatives for feminine care. And what I was looking for really didn't exist because I wanted something backed by, robust clinical data. And so I just started researching, and I found boric acid vaginal suppositories were used for feminine care, but you could only get them through a compounding pharmacy, and they were terribly expensive. So I consulted with a lot of OBGYNs, and they loved boric acid suppositories for their patients, but they were, like I said, difficult to get and expensive, and they changed my life. And I'm like, why is no one making this commercially? And I'm a firm believer that there really are no coincidences in life, that everything happens for a reason. And as fate would have it, my daughter was the only girl in the League of 300 boys playing ice hockey. And her coach had a manufacturing facility that made holistic products for people and pets. So I went to him armed with my data and my idea, and he loved it. So he's a science nerd, like I am too. And we ended up putting the product up on Amazon. We developed it in 2014 and launched it in early 15. And within months, it was the best seller in its category. So due to the velocity, we knew we were onto something, but most importantly, it was changing women's lives. And, for women, many women had suffered for decades. So boric acid, actually in the US, we're required to market for feminine odor, for vaginal odor. But in Canada, we're required to market as a yeast infection treatment. So, but many women, particularly with vaginal odor, it's recurrent 50% of the time in women who have it. So it is, there hadn't been another really there hadn't been a holistic alternative for these women prior to that. And it literally had changed their lives and restored confidence for them, because when we have an issue with our vaginal health, nothing is right with our world.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
it was so edifying to know that what we had created was really changing the lives of women. So
I
that's
love that. I love that because I mean that's what I hear sometimes with entrepreneurs too, that they were looking for something in the market and it did not exist. So they're like, well, then how do I create this? And when you come to that conclusion, you're thinking, I bet you other people want this too. So
yeah,
I love that a part of your story. And if you don't mind, real quick, I'd like to touch on the Amazon because there are so many programs selling, how to become Amazon bestsellers and, how to get your product in Amazon. And Amazon is just this marketplace of millions and millions of products. So
yeah.
how did you find success with your product and finding the buyers using the Amazon platform?
Yeah. So keep in mind too that we launched in 2015. And at that time, Amazon Prime was not what it is today. It was
Mhm.
really only in the major cities. And it was, I wouldn't say a new platform because it wasn't, but it wasn't nearly as robust as today. So uh, you know, we blindly, I have to say, navigated our way through that platform, because that saying, you don't know what you don't know, it's so true, especially for me never having been a consumer products company and for never having been at retail or on Amazon. But we figured it out, and we hired consultants along the way to help us. But we did keep it in house and learn I mean, I was the Amazon person. I was everything. I was marketing. I was social media. Um, so it was a different world then, but I feel like Amazon and us have kind of grown up together. So
Mhm.
we've seen a lot of changes. Unfortunately, mostly not for the good with that platform. But it's a necessary evil now for anyone who has a brand that's a national brand. You have to really be on Amazon in order to
Yeah.
compete.
Very true. So when you were going down this path on finding something that's more holistic, I think a lot of the marketplace doesn't understand the products that are on the market today. So can you kind of enlighten us a little bit as far as like what those are harmful really for us versus what you're able to provide to women now?
Yeah, well, particularly for feminine odor, the only other alternatives had been, you know, some of the old time, douches that had been on the market for years that were scented, uh, that, were not formulated with healthy ingredients, if you will. And then, also there's a lot of pharmaceutical products too. So, which are highly effective, but they have other ramifications, like I said earlier, of I feel like there's can always be a side effect to pharmaceutical products that you're putting into your body. So this is just more, boric acid is a naturally occurring compound, um, and it's been used in feminine care for over 100 years. As a matter of fact, I have a family farm. It was my grandmother's house in Mississippi, and the house is over 100 years old. I think I have it here on my desk, but there are found these in all the bathrooms. It's boric acid crystals.
Huh.
And women would make, it says for a wash. So women would make, they didn't have access to a capsule. So they would make a douche out of boric acid, and because it works, and it's worked for decades. So it's kind of like things that are old or new again in a way.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself going in the future with your company? What do you envision?
Yeah, so it's really exciting time for us. We started out with, the first company to bring boric acid suppositories to the market, but now we have a whole line of feminine care products. We have, we just launched an incredible vaginal moisturizing gel at Walgreens at 7,000 stores. And we have a fantastic, plant-based feminine wash that there's nothing like it on the market. And it's at Target, Walgreens, and CVS, among other retailers. So it's, we're really leaning into holistic feminine care. And because I was tired of going up and down the aisles at retail and seeing all of these companies that were not owned by women, because we're the only certified woman-owned brand in the whole category, and all of the ingredients that just aren't healthy for you, all these major chemicals and all these soaps that exist. So we work with our healthcare advisory board and OBGYNs to develop products that are holistic and, are pH balanced for the vulva, have great ingredients for vaginal moisturization. We have just a whole line now. We have oral supplements too, a great, fantastic probiotic with a prebiotic and cranberry extract for vaginal, urinary, and gut health. We have a menstrual formula. We have a menopause supplement too. So we're really all about taking care of the woman, throughout all stages of her life, because, we shouldn't dread any stage that we head into. We're trying to find really good holistic solutions so that we can all live our best lives, and not worry about the things that our moms worried about, like hot flashes being debilitating, and, not being able to, enjoy your sex life later on in your life because you're experiencing vaginal dryness. So we're really trying to create solutions for women so that they can live a full, happy, fulfilled life.
Yeah, as with me, I went through menopause really early, and for me, not sleeping, that was the big thing for me. I didn't really have the hot flashes, thankfully.
But you're awake at 3 a.m.
Yeah, I just can't sleep. And then you just feel exhausted all the time. So having a holistic approach and, something available for me at my stage of my life, that's incredible.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. How do you get your product out? Talk about how, your marketing behind it. How do you help other women become more aware of a different approach, a holistic approach, which in my mind is much better?
Yeah, so like I said, we have our physician, healthcare professional, nurse practitioner advisory board that also helps us develop content, educational content for our websites and also for our social media. It's having a science background and being in the healthcare industry for 20 years. It's very important to me to have the support and also the knowledge of the healthcare provider to help us with formulation and also for messaging, because we always want to stay, making sure we're not doing any harm to anyone and educating women as best as possible. So we lean into that a lot, but it's crazy. As marketing changes, I feel like every day, especially with social media. And TikTok has become just a phenomenon all on its own. It's just to learn that that Gen Z is using that as their Google to search for products and to search for answers to all kinds of solutions. We have to be on that platform and be relevant and make sure we're informing and educating the consumers too. So social media has played a huge role in that, but we also have the very first commercial to really talk about vaginal odor, and that has been running for us for the past couple of years. So it's been hugely successful for us, and it's a fact of life. It's not anyone's fault. So we're here to remove the stigma, and part of that is creating open, honest conversations about vaginal health and feminine care.
Yeah. And to, make light of the subject a little bit, I think this is the first time I've been able to say vaginal on my podcast. So I'm excited to kind of go down this route a little bit. But you talked about TikTok, and I agree with you 100% on that. And what I find is sometimes the more difficult subject, the funnier the videos that people
Yes.
relate to. So
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go search now to see your videos, but I
Oh,
can imagine
yes.
some funny videos or shorts or reels coming out talking about vaginal odor and a
Yes.
holistic approach to it. So I think that would be a lot of fun. And I think a lot of people would watch those type of videos too.
Yeah. And Angela, to piggyback on that, you just made me think of something, in talking about social media. One of the things that's been incredibly frustrating, not only for us, but for other feminine care companies, is the uh we're not allowed to say, even vagina or vaginal in our ads on Meta in particular. So on Instagram or Facebook, and where there's commercials talking about erectile dysfunction all day long. So it is not equitable, and it's incredibly frustrating for half the population who has a vagina to not be able to talk about the issues that we face. So that's something, you know, we've tried to overcome. And if we end up having to appeal, which takes hours and hours and hours just to get, you know, educational content out there. So that's incredibly frustrating.
I never thought about that, but yet people can say like curse words, but you're right. They talk
Right.
about, VD or ED, and that's okay. But, this is like a real health issue that a lot of people are embarrassed to talk about,
Yeah,
but then you can't even search for the word because you're not allowed to even put it out there.
exactly. Very
Oh,
frustrating.
that's so crazy. So how else do you expand your line from here? What other products do you think that are still problem solving? Because that's kind of where a lot of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And maybe in other countries too. Like, is this a product outside of the US and outside of Canada? And I did find that very interesting that you have to call it different things depending on the country. So I'd be curious to know like what the other countries are going to be and what kind of, walls you're going to run into or ceilings you're going to run into when you start promoting it in different areas.
Yeah. So, for Canada in particular, we have to have different packaging, which will likely be true for several of the other countries that we enter into. But yeah, you have to have the French and English, and you have to make sure, there's different guidelines for every country. So it's really doing our due diligence to make sure that we're um, following those guidelines. So Canada is a huge country for us, and that we're growing like crazy up there and introducing new products next year. The ones that we have in the US, we're introducing in Canada next year. So it is, yeah, that's what we're leaning into, more and more innovation for problem solving. Uh, Thankfully, menopause is having its moment, and that's largely due in part to a lot of the celebrities who have started their own menopause brands
Mm.
and they have the platform in order to elevate this conversation and really bring the national attention to it, which has been great to see because my mom never talked about menopause. I mean, she suffered and had hot flashes, but you didn't really talk about it. It was just known that, oh, you just suffer through it. It's a period of life that you just deal with. Well, no, you don't have to. There's great, options for women out there, and hormone replacement therapy is another thing. For like 2 decades, we were told to not take it. Well, now that all that has been debunked,
Mhm.
and that the NIH study that came out, was inconclusive. And so thankfully, women are talking about ways to deal with the symptoms of menopause because we'll spend a third of our lives there. And that's what we're leaning into that too, creating solutions for women so that they don't have to suffer. But also, for younger women as well. And so we're really leaning into innovation and growing internationally, is because we're in pretty much every major retailer in the US and in Canada. So we get inquiries all the time. We ship international constantly. So uh, my goal, yeah, is to expand the brand to as many countries as possible.
Yeah. And if you're already getting requests and orders for it, it's just a matter of time.
Yes.
So that's good too. So I can imagine too, in your industry, research and development is a huge part because you want to make sure you're holistic, as your branding says, that you do enough testing so that you know that the product's safe. I can imagine that takes a lot of time, energy, and money, right?
Yeah, we're so blessed to have a full-time product development scientist, and she's brilliant. And she is instrumental in helping us bring these ideas that we have to light. And so she works hand in hand, with our healthcare professionals to do that. And we're constantly also searching for innovative ingredients. We have a team right now at a show in Vegas where they're looking at the latest trends in oral supplements and skincare and other things where we can possibly incorporate those into our new formulation. So it's a lot of work, but it's also so much fun.
Yeah, that's good. Awesome. Any other tips that you could give maybe a business owner or someone who's thinking about entering into this field, maybe something that you've learned along the way that you didn't know getting into it?
Sure, I would say the top thing is don't let fear limit you. I feel like there's, so everybody at some point probably has $1 million idea, but they're not able to execute it because of, I'd say the top reason why is a fear of failure. And when I first entered into this, like I said, I had no intentions of doing this, and I'm so grateful it's happened. But I was a single mom, and I feel like sometimes we have to be made uncomfortable in our comfortable situations in order to get us to make a change. And thankfully, that's what happened to me. And I really knew I needed to lean into PhD and grow that business. But I left the security of all of that. And but it was because my motto is faith over fear. I had the faith that no matter if I failed, no matter what happened, I could go get another job. I could, because I was really good at what I did, and I couldn't risk not taking that chance. So I think particularly as women, too, we need to lean into that intuition that we have that oftentimes we try and dismiss, because that is one of our superpowers, is our intuition. And leaning into the intuition and not letting fear cripple us or keep us from taking a chance that we otherwise might regret later.
Gotcha. Well, you hit my last question for you right on the nose there. But if you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh goodness, there's so many. But I think I would choose to fly because I waste so much time in my car and it drives me nuts. And I'm the month of September, I was home 9 nights because of all my travel.
Wow.
So think of all the time I could save if I could fly. I think that would be it.
Yeah. And I live in Miami, so traffic is just not fun. So flying would be a good thing.
Right.
All right, Deanna, if our audience wants to get in touch with you to learn more about your holistic products, how do they reach you?
Yeah, so phdfemininehealth.com. And also on all of our socials, we'd love for you to follow us. And you can find our products at Walmart, Target, Walgreens, CVS, Kroger, Publix in Florida, Hy-Vee, H-E-B, Wegmans, like I said, pretty much every major retailer. But yeah, we have holistic washes for everyday use. We have a great body spray, and then we have, of course, the products that on a need to use basis as well.
Oh, thank you so much for being on Empower Her Money podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Empower Her Money podcast. Make sure you leave me a 5-star review, share this podcast, subscribe, and share the message.